Chapter 3. Yantram in Emergence. 1. Yantram in the states of emergence. We have seen that pure principles, in their pure descent in creative evolution, have not admitted of the curvature process. The Homo axis is content with its straight or right measure, Somo and Mono, and the circular measure is not yet. The circle, sphere, wave pattern, and so on, are still in waiting. The divergent series, incommensurable quantities, imaginary quantities, are not yet functionally emergent. The a-logical, in having to descend into a logical and mathematical, first forges a right link, builds a straight bridge, and this follows from the fundamental power, posture, and context in which evolution begins. Compare biological evolution from unicellular material. This, however, is an illustration at a mixed and complicated stage of the creative process. We can carry our mathematics in its pure and straight form, and even our metaphysics in its pure principles and categories, only up to the mystery link or bridge at which the unmeasured a-logical wills to become the logical and measurable. Reality descends into, is immanent in, informed and illustrated by these latter, but it transcends their limiting conditions. The Bindu is the mystery point that connects this a-logical transcendence of the Absolute with its logical and mathematical descent and immanence in creation. 2. The Setu or link in 3 stages. The first stage is Vara or Para. The second is Vara Vara. The last, Avara. Evolution is Ruju, meaning straight and symmetrical in the first emergence. Shushama, meaning curved and symmetrical in the second, and Vishama, meaning eccentric and quasi-symmetrical in the third. This last, in relation to degrees of symmetry presented, may be of different groups. As the first and second emergences are not submerged and lost, but only involved and immanent and implicated in the third, this last can have only an appearance or face look of confused unsymmetricality. The confused look of apparent creation can be resolved into serenity and composure. Unsymmetricality can be analyzed into phases of harmony and components of significance. Theoretically, it is the essay of science. Practically, it is the way of sadhana. Both become possible because the hexagon of symmetry still abides and rules in all apparent eccentricities and perversions. For instance, the infinitely varied but beautifully patterned hexagons of icicles on your window panes on a frosty night have all the wild look that a night in chaos may be imagined to bear. But how and whence do the beautiful hexagons emerge? Can they be from blind chance? Take other examples in nature, outside and inside. 3. Numbers and forms in emergence. In emergence, numbers correlate themselves to forms or power positions and postures. The number 1 is born when power posits itself as Bindu. Power in itself is numberless and also formless. With the emergence of the first axis of homoplanarity with its opposition of sense, the first one becomes at once +1 and -1, plus and minus. When the axis duplicates, triplicates, and so on, 2, 3, etc., emerge. With right projection from the origin and inversion, come not only right konas, but also plus or minus power indices of numbers. Whence it follows that any number raised to the zero power is 1, that is, the original position. The first polar shrim in the intersections of the two triangles regarded integrally is number 3. But analytically, 3 times 3 is 9, as we have seen. Its sum-arconic number is 2. Rectilinear forms have their sum-arconic number in the order of the even numbers, and without duplications, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. This also has been seen. Hence, without duplication, that is, as emergence with reference to the first axis only, a triangle is number 1, square 2, pentagon 3, hexagon 4, and so on. 4. The numbers are not abstract principles. This follows at once from our given power positions and postulations. Number is at the core of creation, as the informing power. For instance, if sum-arconic number is 2, the resultant of product is represented by 3, and its pure evolved form is triangle. In the first, or Ruju emergence, power is Om, and this evolves the first polar triangle form, and the first number series 1, 2, 3. Numbers are power positions, forms power postures. 5. Self-limiting degrees of freedom. Power as Bindu has no limits to its degrees of freedom. This follows from the nature of Bindu, as both full and nil. By positing itself as the axis of homoplanarity, one self-limitation is set. And as numbers and forms emerge, self-limiting proceeds. Power as Om, in its first straight or Ruju emergence, evolves from the basic algolical continuum, a system of correlated numbers and forms, that is mantras and yantras, which sets the basic unlimited freedom to define conditions of pure logic and mathematics. The unconditioned has emerged into a frame of postulations and definitions, into conditions, as yet pure and straight, or Shuddha and Ruju. But even pure and straight conditions condition, limit, and restrict original freedom. This brings emergence to a point at which it must revise its own character and remodel its process. This opens up new possibilities of both numbers and forms. We are at the upper approaches to the second Setu. Bindu, measureless power to emerge as creation, posits itself as one measure, or Ekmatra, and full measure, or Purnamatra, as the first Setu. Numbers as integers and forms as rectilinear are evolved. By these, the alogical continuum is conditioned as a logical mathematical structure. Limitless freedom of movement is limited, for instance, between 2 points, A and B. One movement, that is straight, is possible. A triangle, a square, or hexagon will be cut by a straight line which wants to pass through their field. The problem of cosmic evolution is how again to increase and multiply the degrees of freedom that in pure Ruju emergence, or Somo and Mono, have been limited. How again to open up unlimited possibilities of movement, for example, from A to B, inside and outside a triangle or square, and so on, which the cosmos with its untold forms and measures of symmetry and harmony requires. How can all the actual patterns in nature, straight or curved, that render her into a melody of pictures of harmony emerge? This can be possible if Bindu as Eka and Samamatra also posits itself as Ardha and Shushma Matra, allowing on the one hand fractional numbers, incommensurable and imaginary quantities to emerge, and on the other hand curved forms of various kinds correlatable to such Ardha-inspired numbers. 6. Ardha as the second Setu. Ardha is a mystic word, which does not mean simply half. It is a mystery function of power, by which the Riju can emerge as Shushama, opening up untold possibilities, folded up in Bindu, of symmetry dimension and harmony reproduction. In this way, the pure triangle pattern, or Riju, becomes a wave pattern, or Shushama. A circle is inscribed or circumscribed, relating to rectilinear forms. The lotus blooms with its beautiful symmetrical curves. These second emergent yantras, with their numbers or mantras, such as pi, etc., carry on emergence, halted, so to say, at the first stage, into fresh avenues of harmonic reproduction and fulfillment. 7. The Third Setu. Ardha is not only a harmony producer and reproducer, but a persistent carrier. Hence, waves interfere, circles intersect, curves become eccentric, and so on. So cosmic emergence at the appearing stage looks Visama. Original freedom, which manifests as unlimited richness of harmony, is chained and narrowed down into a mere hint or suggestion. It is, however, never wholly or really so. The veiling and refracting factors are there, but primordial chaos is ignorance and out of tuneness. The object of sadhana is to make the unseeing and ungetting Ardha in us to see and realize all. 8. Creation and pre-creation. The three orders of creative emergence bear a face look of being in time. They seem to be coming one after another. But the descent is not temporal in our sense, till the Third Setu is passed. When the perfect Bindu is given, all is, and, to perfect reason, creation is complete. As when the triangle or circle is given, all its numberless properties are given. But the Bindu is also power to posit and see itself renewing and reproducing, both graphically and serially, ad infinitum, and to evolve as centers of appreciation and reaction in phases, partials, segments, quanta. If Bindu's own positing be called pure creation, the emergence of the logico-mathematical order is proto-creation, and both in respect to the third emergence may be called pre-creation. Logico-mathematical means number and forms together with their basic meanings and relations. Pre is radical. It is clear that the logical premise or the mathematical precondition is not temporal sequence. Chapter 4. Power as Om, Om as Omnipotence. 1. Is power brute? The creation is an epiphany of power divine. It is so even in its final or third emergence, so that creation cannot be crude, and power brute. It can only sometimes look so, without ever being so in reality. The lowliest dust is coarse only at its crust. Its core picture, drawn after the Hrileka, must be akin to the basic symmetry and harmony in nature patterns. Of the two, symmetry and harmony, the former especially relates to form, and the latter to number, and the two are correlated. Sim is somo, mani is mono. Since these are power postures and power positions, the humble dust is humble only in its appearing mask. In its substance, which in part only is its physical mass, it is power unmeasured, because the core of all individual cores in creative evolution is Bindu. Bindu in itself is not individual, nor as the matrix of all evolving polarities can you call it universal. It is basic, fundamental. It is power whole and indivisible, or Purna. But with respect to all evolved, patent polarizations and specifications, it is the null point, or Shunya. In this latter aspect, Kala, Bindu is the magnum matrix of power as evolvent neutral, that is, neither negative nor positive. From that original neutrality is evolved the first axis with its opposition of sense or polarity. 2. The plenum becomes a field. In the first, or Riju emergence, power as pure continuum and plenum conditions itself straightwise, and the evolved positions and postures, or numbers and forms, are Riju. The pure plenum is thus rendered into a pattern of intrinsic field geometry and its basic number relations. The pure plenum becomes a Riju field. This, becoming as such, limits its own freedom of process. The second emergence is an essay to make the Riju self-limiting field pliable and negotiable to a maximum degree by the evolution of symmetry curvatures and their corresponding harmony functions. 3. The Third Setu as critical juncture. But by these two emergences, that is, Ruju and Shushama, the field of creative process as a whole is further conditioned. The maximum leads to a critical juncture, the Third Setu. Creation cannot carry on with its newer and newer lines of movement ad infinitum without readjusting and revising its Shushama field pattern. The field tends to become preconditioned too thickly or densely, so to say, even by such patterns, to meet ever new requirements of unlimited creative process. For this, nature hits upon a double device. 4. Nature's double device at the last deal. The first is to allow for eccentric and uneven, or Vishama, curvatures and folds, and the second is to tie or pack up, or stabilize and localize as closely as possible the finally emergent results. By this latter device, harmony waves are made to behave as quanta and particles, rhythmic panzoic pulsations as cellular and nuclear. The harmony pattern of the cosmic mind is contracted into closed ego factor and ego function. By this latter device again, the last emergents are, as nearly as possible, tied down to determine space-time specifications. The margin of interdeterminacy, the residuum of irreducibility, however, continue to remain. The last phase of emergence only carries on, but never supersedes or suppresses the basic and prototypal creations. That cannot follow from the first principles. The pure and protocosmos has now seen itself as cosmic dust, physical or otherwise. In such cosmic context, nature allows for possible eccentricities and unevenness. 5. Probability function and statistical universe. At the Third Setu, probability comes and negotiates between pre-creation and our customary average creation. Nature has set down a certain product or result as a practically stable, narrowed, and specified objective. Total harmony has been piecemealed into a note that one can catch or seize upon. To a process starting from a given here-now point, nature says this: take your chance of going to that objective, product or result. You cannot simply go straight because the preconditioned context of positions and postures does not permit it. Nor can you faithfully follow the proto-patterns of symmetry and harmony, because your objective may not be in homo, that is, somo and mono relation to them. Your given field is heterogeneous, so that your course will be heterodox, that is, eccentric and uneven. Yet there are several possibilities. Your course is not stereotyped, but statistical. 6. The mean taken phase-wise and cross-sectionally. So, nature's last deal is a deal in dice. We call it last, but creation is unending. We take it phase-wise, and sometimes even cross-sectionally. What we commonly appreciate as a particle of dust, as an atom or any other thing, is a mean, an average, and that mean is also taken in phases and cross-sections. It is a pragmatic being, a conventional entity. So also with our drawn curve of processes and movements. 7. The core picture and the Homo-line. But there is an unmistakable suggestion that there must be a core pictures of things and processes if we can speak of them analytically. Not only so, that there must be a home-line, progression of such pictures leading to Heleka, that is, as heart picture, and Bindu. The former is the matrix of individualized being and becoming. For instance, the first axis is the Heleka of homoplanarity, the first polar triangle of the pattern, Nada Bindu Kala, point, process, product, and so on. Think also of the interlaced triangle. It is the Heleka of what? But in these cases the Heleka is drawn at the evolved end. What is at the evolving end? The evolving end rests in Bindu, which refuses to tell. 8. The pointer in modern outlook. But we are not in the home line in our accepted reaction and reviews. The conventional physical atom, living molecule, mind dust, and so on, made us wander furthest abroad half a century ago. Later reorientation of outlook and methods has no doubt given a suggestive right turn, but as yet not an inspired right about turn, which is required. The mathematical universe in which probability function and statistics have an important part to play has rounded off many of the unsymmetrical angularities and smoothed out many of the unharmonic eccentricities. This points to the proto and pure patterns in things. But the pointer is still vacillating, not steady. Bindu has beckoned through Heleka, but the message has not yet been received and rendered. 9. The atomic energy torn from its home-affiliation. Take, for instance, the physical atom. We now know it nuclearly, and use it intradynamically. The tiniest mass is born as colossal energy. But with what cheering results and prospects so far? It has not been so, but on the contrary, the world is threatened with atomic destruction, because firstly, the physical mass has so far been taken cross-sectionally, and nuclear physics has missed the home line leading to the Nabhi, or navel, Hirleka, and Bindu, which is the perfect focus and fount of power as life and consciousness. And secondly, because the divergent nucleus has been forced in a way which has made the enormous energy of fission and fusion torn from its home affiliation and family concert with basic symmetry and harmony patterns. The energy is therefore like a giant released from the sealed vase by the poor fisherman in the story. 10. Power as life and as consciousness. Yet in the home line, both life and consciousness, in consort and concert with the basic Hirleka patterns, are capable of releasing mass energy to a wonderful extent and degree, and transforming this into new constructive and creative patterns. The energy thus released and transformed is more and not less potent and wonderful than that of the atom or hydrogen bomb. Look at a tiny germ or seed that soon covers the whole planet at a human master self that creates and recreates a world order and dispensation. 11. Energy exiled as energy brought home. Creation and recreation into newer and fuller and richer patterns are the prerogative of life. Physical mass energy is the fuel material. It is no concern of its to design, devise, create, and the role of consciousness is supreme. The Home-line from Bindu and Hleka is essentially a creative line. And the Third Setu, where eccentricities and unevenness as matter apparently emerge, destruction also comes, and is often more in evidence. More seeds perish than fructify. Yet nature's own economy does not ordinarily lose its balance, that is, dharma. The hexagon is still at the heart of things and rules. By atomic fission, by violence, that rule is seriously disturbed. It is not in the balance line, in accordance with the homo-axis of creation's harmonic progression. It is krura, meaning diabolically violent, and jimha, meaning unharmonically oblique. Therefore we must turn back and essay to open up the missed home line again with a science and technique which shall lead into minds and channels of power greater, fuller, and higher than atomic energy. Modern achievements will not be scrapped, but revised and revalued in that consummation devoutly to be wished for. Energy exiled will be energy brought home. 12. Kundalini. How to rouse her. Creation works through a harmonic system of breaks and makes. Bindu, as perfect power to make, puts on a system of breaks in harmony relations as creation proceeds. The last break first stabilizes and then condenses power as material mass. We cannot afford to break off the last break or smash it up. We can, however, with material as well as spiritual advantage, reverse the order in which creation has descended down to this. Then the power, even under the last break, will be recognized as Kundalini, meaning coiled cosmic power consciousness, asleep. Our first foremost essay then will be how to rouse her. 13. Om as coordinating four basic creative functions. Creation is a concerted system of makes and breaks. Make has its opposite in break, but break, B-R-A-K-E, is not break, B-R-E-A-K. It is the consort of make. They carry on and fulfill each other. Break is a self-limitation for further creative action. The break principle in pure and proto-creation is tapas, and the make principle, kalpanam. Ishtanam sees that these are in consort and concert with each other. As basic will to be and become is karma. The four coordinate principles are consummated in Om as power. Bindu is karma, Nada is ikshanam, Kala is kalpanam, and the mystic Ardha is tapas. Ardha gathers in and coils up, so that new creation can draw upon a revived, undepleted reserve of power. It is Shakti's Yoga Nidra. Shakti as Om creates, sustains, and reabsorbs. 14. Atomic physics is not to be contraindicated in relation to Om, so that at our end of the creative descent, our vital reactions, even in the matter of physical explorations and adaptations, must not be contraindicated in relation to the basic scheme of Om as power. Atomic nuclear energy is, at the core, that power in tapas. That power has to be roused after a basic pattern, for example, rousing the Kundalini by appropriate mantram and yantram. Science must set herself on an earnest quest for these. That means not that her modern methods have to be mostly abandoned, but that a new path, or the Home-line, whether you call it mystic or not, has to be opened for reorientation, revaluation, and sublimation of the titanic forces let loose. Only let loose forces can be our unmaking. They are contraindicated in relation to tapas. Our own apparatus must set the pattern for our laboratories to suitably reproduce. The mystic path has been called, in Indian mysticism, the path of Shushumna. It is creation's own home-line. The system of 6 chakras, each with its mantram and yantram presided over and ruled by Om, is also a basic cosmic scheme which nuclear physics, for that matter, cannot wisely and safely ignore. It will not do to merely utter ignoramus, because to know this is to know all that surpassingly counts in existence. Atomic disruption and total death cannot surely be the near divine event to which the whole creation moves. Energy adversely exiled is atomic death. Energy harmoniously brought home is supra-atomic life. 15. Atomic death and supra-atomic life. Energy to be thus brought home must be evoked, for example in the atom, by a method inspired by the rousing of Kundalini and her ascent along the Shushumna. That is to say, by the immensely powerful focusing of harmonic resonance vibrations, for example supersonically. It is in creation the function of the rising Om. Power suited to work in the home or lifeline must be born in harmony and not in violence, for example bombardment. Then the energy thus evoked must not be allowed to get out of hand, but stabilized. Then the stabilized energy should be made to flow evenly and canalized. Next, the flowing energy should be raised to a level where it can focus itself for the creation of symmetry forms and harmony functions. This is the renewing and recreative phase of the energy released in the beginning. Then the creative symmetry forms and harmony functions should be non-localized and given universal availability and application. It should be as common and as free as the atmosphere we breathe in. Finally, that energy should be laid against a background of cosmic repose and tranquility. serenity, light, and peace. This journey's end is essential, because without it, the wisest lead of power will not prevent entropy conditions from getting accumulated. At this last phase of the mystic path process, the setting Om is to make the way. The basic sound body of the first stabilizer is Lam. For the second phase, Vam. For the third, Ram. For the fourth, Yam. For the last, Hum. It follows that, supersonically, power to the requisite critical point, these harmonic systems are capable of working out the desired succession of creative wonders. The core of the atom is like the hen in the fable which laid golden eggs. Modern methods have ripped open the hen's abdomen, and atom bomb, H-bomb are issuing forth. These bomb-making but world-unmaking methods have, to a large extent, been forged by the exigencies of destructive war, and not inspired by the positive requirements of harmonized creative peace. For that, power is to be divinized as Vyoma, and not brutalized as the bomb. Power should be evoked, not provoked. Power as Vyoma sustains cosmos, but power as bomb lapses in chaos.